Right into it. Have you ever had these questions before? What time will the winds increase or decrease? What is the temperature or precipitation outlook for the spring? What is the odds of seeing at least 2 inches of snow from my location? Or even, how do I read a windsock? Well, these are all great questions to ask. Join me as we look at how to answer these and other important questions tonight. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Jesse Lundquist. I'm one of the forecasters here at the Goodland Weather Office. I will be your host for this excursion into the information about weather and agriculture. Joining me tonight will be my partner, Kalita Kaufman, who will be monitoring for any questions you may have throughout the presentation. So getting right into it, here are the topics we're going to be covering this evening. We're going to start off with where to go to find weather observations. After that, we'll show you how to find hourly weather information. Then after that, we'll look at where to go to find precipitation analysis for anywhere from 1 hour all the way out to several years ago for a particular day. After that, we're going to take a look at where to find winter forecast information and then wrap up with some climate and drought websites. With that, let's go right into our first topic of weather observations. So I've heard that there's quite a bit of talk, or I shouldn't know if I'd say talk, but questions about windsocks. Well, windsocks are really the most economical and easiest way to observe real-time wind information, no matter where you're at. Now, the way a windsock works is it's a cone-shaped piece of fabric, and it's made to specific dimensions. So no matter where you might go to purchase a windsock, they're all going to be made to the same dimension. And the way a windsock works is the stronger the wind is, the more filled the windsock will be. The less wind there is, the less filled the windsock will be. So looking now at the diagram there at the bottom of the slide, let's start from left to right here. So if the windsock you have is about a third filled, it'll be about a 3-mile-per-hour wind. Half filled, 7 miles per hour. 2/3 filled is 10 miles per hour. 3/4 filled is about 14 miles per hour. And then fully filled is at least 17 miles per hour. Now, if you ever purchase a windsock, I'd recommend allowing it to turn with the wind so it fills accordingly and also allows you to see what the wind direction is. So before I move on to our next website here for weather observations, are there any questions about how to read a windsock? I am not hearing any, so we'll go ahead and press onward. So the next thing we're going to look at here for weather observations is where do you go to find them online? That's a great question. So I'm going to change my display setup here just a little bit. So the first website we're going to look at, to find it, you would search Weather and Hazards Viewer. And one of the top search results will take you right to this website. So opening it up, the first thing you're going to see is all of our latest hazard information. So any watches, warnings, or advisories for across the country. But we're not going to look at that today. Right now, we want to look at how to load observations. So I'm going to turn off the hazards layer, and we're going to go over to our observation tab. And we're going to check mark it to turn it on. And right here we have what's called station plots displayed. What a station plot is, at least for this website, it displays the wind speed and direction, as well as the latest temperature, and then also the wind gusts. So we're going to zoom in a little bit more to our neck of the woods here. So for Goodland, the latest station plot has a north wind at 10 miles per hour. You can see that with the full barb. And then looking over here, just on the western side of the state line, we have a north-northeast wind at 5 miles per hour. You notice that barb is about half of what the one at Goodland is. So that's a 5-mile-per-hour barb. These wind barbs point in the direction the wind is coming from. So they're coming from the north. And the temperature for this MesoNet site here is 45 degrees with a wind gust of about 12 miles per hour. So let's say for this site, I want to know more about what the latest observations were. So you can, in fact, click on to see more of the latest observations and then say, I want to see what the 3-day history is for this MesoNet site. So to do that, just click on the link, and as it loads, it gives you just a plethora of other weather observation information. For instance, it has a graph of temperature, dew point, and humidity. Then over here it has a chart of the wind speeds and wind gusts. And then for similar information, just in a tabular format, just scroll down. You can see all that information here. So we'll go ahead and go back to the website. There is a whole host of other observation information you can plot on this website. Simply click on the drop-down menu. You can plot air temperature, dew point, even wind gusts. And you can even increase the density of the stations that you have available to you. And as we zoom in, so you can see just a general idea of what the wind gusts are currently across our neck of the woods. And there, again, just a whole host of other information you can plot on this. You can also use this website to plot precipitation, and we're going to talk about that just a little bit later. So moving on to the next website for observations. This one is called MesoWest. So we are in no way advocating use of this website or such. We're just simply saying this is one website that we use here at the office that does a great job displaying weather information. So we're in no way endorsing this. But say we want to find out the observations for this part of Kansas. So we just simply click there on the map and it brings up the state. And let's say we actually want to see a little bit more of the observations for the Goodland weather forecast area. So to do that, we'll go ahead and find our office here. So Goodland CWA, that's our county warning area. We'll click on that. And we want to see all networks, not just weather service. So go ahead and click all networks and then refresh the map. And you can see it adjusts to all the observation sites in our neck of the woods here. So this layout is very similar to the Weather and Hazards Viewer website. Displays the direction of the wind with the wind barbs, as well as the speed and the current temperature, as you can see there. So if you want to see some other weather observation information for the latest hour, you can hover over the MesoNet site, and you can see the information there. And like the previous website, if you want more information, just simply click on the site and it gives you a chart of the temperature, dew point, and humidity. And let's say you want to know more about what the trend with the wind speeds and direction is over the last day. You go ahead and click on that link there, and it gives you all that information here. Some website or some MesoNet sites, will display observations every 5 minutes. Some may only be once an hour. It really depends on what the site is set up to do. So for this site, you see the temperature, dew point, humidity, wind speeds, wind gusts. Some MesoNet sites even have the latest visibilities as well. So at the top here, it just gives you a highlight of the information, the highs, the lows for various observation fields, and what the 24-hour high and low is for those fields as well. So just a whole host of information here on this website as well. Let's say you'd like to see a different day for the same MesoNet site. Go over here to the left and click on Change Date Time to do that. So before I go on, are there any questions about how to access weather observations? Oh, do we still use the evaporation pan? We actually are just starting to do that. We received the equipment and started to install that, I believe, back in November. So I believe once temperatures start to warm up, probably towards the springtime, we'll start using that, will be my best guess. But we are getting set up to use an evaporation pan. That's a good question. All right, anything else before we move on? All right, pressing onward. So the next topic we're going to look at briefly is how do you access hourly weather information? It's a great question. I'm glad you asked. So to do that, we actually start off at our homepage, weather.gov/GLD. You see this map here toward the middle of the screen. If you click anywhere on this map, you'll receive a forecast for that particular point. So let's say I want to know what the weather is going to be like in southeast Wallace County. So I'll go ahead and click there. So right at the top of the forecast page, you see we have the latest observations, and this is usually going to pull it from the nearest weather service site. So in this case, the nearest one is going to be Goodland. So here's the latest observations from Goodland. Going down a little further, you can see our forecast at a glance for the next week. And this also highlights any hazards we have. So you can see we have highlighted a winter weather advisory for tonight into tomorrow. Then going down just a little bit more is our detailed forecast for this location, a map showing you where that point is in relation to the rest of the county. Then going down a little further is our hourly weather forecast. You can click on that to see it. So this is our hourly weather forecast page. So this shows you just a whole host of different weather-related fields here. So first off, I want to draw your attention to the different shading you see. We have some grays here and some whites. So the gray, that is the nighttime, and then the white is the daytime. You notice we have times here as well. These are in local time. So if you're concerned about is this in central time or is it mountain time, it's actually local to that location you are clicking on. So since this was southeast Wallace County, this is in mountain time. If we went just across the county line into Logan County, this would be in central time. Each one of these vertical lines here represents 1 hour, no matter what field you're looking at here. And at the top, you can see we have a red line. That is our temperature, our hourly temperature forecast. The green is our dew point. The blue is the wind chill. Then moving down to the wind field. So this is our hourly wind forecast. So the wind barbs are showing, once again, the direction and the speed. So we're looking at northeast winds at, let's say, 15 to maybe 20 miles per hour tonight into tomorrow morning. And you notice these line segments above the wind barbs. These are our wind gusts that we are forecasting. So currently we're forecasting wind gusts around 30 miles per hour for tonight into tomorrow morning. Then going down further, this is another useful field. We have our relative humidity in an hourly format, as well as sky cover. And then the one people really want to know about is our precipitation forecast. So you see we have a 0% tonight, and then as we ramp up into tomorrow, we're going from about 20% all the way up to almost 50% by 11 a.m. tomorrow morning for southeast Wallace County. And then you can see it slowly decrease as those snow chances move out of our forecast area. Going down a little further, here is where we have our chances for various types of weather. So for rain, we really don't have much of a chance for that. It's going to be mostly snow. So drawing your attention here to the snow column, excuse me, the row of the snow forecast. We are going for about 1/10 of an inch of snow in the morning, and then maybe 4/10 during the afternoon, and then maybe some freezing rain along with that. So just a whole host of different hourly weather information here on our website. If you want to see what the next 2 days has to offer, simply click the forward 2 days button, and you can see the forecast for the next week in 2-day intervals. Now let's say you don't really like this format, you prefer it more of a tabular view. Well, no problem. Simply click anywhere on the hourly weather forecast page and you can see the exact same information in a tabular format. So do we have any questions about the hourly weather information before we move on to our next topic? All right, I am not seeing anything yet, so we'll go ahead and press onward. So the next topic we're going to look at is precipitation analysis. So to do that, there are 2 different websites. We're going to go to the one we started with, the Weather and Hazards Viewer. We're going to once again turn off the hazards since we don't want to look at that right now. And we're going to look at precipitation analysis. And I'm hoping, unfortunately, it looks like we don't have anything quite going on there in the Northeast that moved out. If we did, what you would do is you would click this plus here to determine what interval you want to look at. So if you want to look at hourly accumulation, you click that, and then the website would load that. Let's try this again. All right, here we go. I simply had to just refresh it and click the check mark again. So let's go up here to around northern Michigan, just to give you an idea of how detailed this can be. So this is 1 hour liquid accumulation for precipitation. So I know there are some businesses out there that offer precipitation analysis down to the precise field that you might be working or might be needing to spray in the near future. Unfortunately, the weather information we have access to does not provide that detailed of analysis. But as you can see here, it does offer it down to a mile or two. So it will help you have a general idea of what sort of precipitation did fall. And to find out at least according to this display, how much fell, you simply click anywhere on the map. You can see it gives you a readout there. So 800's in that location and all the way up to 1200's there. Now, if we want to see a different amount, time frame for accumulation, we simply click the drop-down menu and can go all the way out to 72 hours. So if you want to know within 3 days how much precipitation fell for a given location, by all means use this website. If, though, you want to see something further back than 3 days, we're going to go to a different website for that. So this one is a little bit tricky to get to. The best way to find it, besides trying to memorize that long web address, is to type in AHPS-GLD into your search bar. And one of the first links that's going to pop up will be a link to this website. So again, that's AHPS-GLD. So to access the precipitation analysis page, click on the link here. It says precipitation. And then here we have our map for the precipitation analysis. Unfortunately, we don't have anything in our forecast area that happened recently, but let's draw your attention to the bottom of the map here so we can see a variety of different time frames. The current day, the last week, last month, all the way to the last year. We can also see monthly precipitation analysis, as you can see there. Or if you have a particular day in mind, you can see that as well. And I believe this goes all the way back to 2005 for a particular day. I'd say the one drawback with this website, and I'm going to go back to the monthly format to show it to you. The one drawback is the coarseness of the resolution for precipitation analysis. So you can see below about ½ an inch there on the right. It's fairly good for a resolution, but once you get closer to an inch or more, the resolution really drops off. So I would say this page is more of an awareness of, in general, how much fell for a particular area. You can zoom in quite a bit on this website, and also you can adjust the transparency here a little bit. So you can see precise rows and where in relation the precipitation was for roads. But as I just mentioned, the resolution is fairly coarse once you get close to an inch or more. But this is one way you can see precipitation analysis all the way back to 2005 on a daily basis. So I'll pause here if there are any questions about precipitation analysis. All right, I am not hearing anything. So I guess I'm answering all you guys' questions if you don't have any. So that's great. So we'll keep pressing onward. So the next topic we're going to look briefly at is, where do you go to find winter forecast information like probabilities for different snow amounts? Well, that's a terrific question. I'm glad you asked it. So to do that, we're going to once again start back at our home page, weather.gov/GLD. But as you can see in the web address, we're going to add /winter. So weather.gov/GLD, and then put extra slash on. So that will bring you to this website. And fortunately, we actually have some snow to show you. So we're going to click on the probabilistic snowfall forecast. And this shows you what our latest snowfall forecast is here on the larger map. And then if you look over on the right, we actually have the high end amount, what you might get, for the highest snowfall potential. And then the low end, you should get about this much. So for our upcoming event, we're forecasting about maybe a quarter inch or so. You may not get anything. That's the guarantee, unfortunately. But on the high end, let's look at that. So on the high end, you could see inch, maybe inch and a half over the western half of our forecast area. So that is the 10%, the highest snowfall amount potential for the upcoming winter system. So going down a little bit further, so you're probably wondering, well, what about probabilities for different snow amounts? Well, this is the place where you can go to look at that. So, for instance, here, what are the odds of seeing at least a tenth of an inch of snow? For Goodland, it's about 65%, Flagler 66, Yuma 63%, and then it declines as you go east. What about an inch? How much? What are the odds of that? So for Goodland, it's not looking very promising, maybe 20%. Tribune has a little bit higher odds of around 30%. And you go for 2 inches or more of snow, even less. So for any particular snowstorm, we always advertise these with our latest forecast. So if you're ever wondering, feel free to check back on this website anytime when we have snowfall forecasts. You can see the latest probabilities for various snowfall amounts that you see here. Then going on down the page, here are selected cities across our forecast area, and it provides you in a tabular format the same information you can see on the top half of the page there. So I'm going to go up again to show you one other helpful item on our winter weather forecast page. And this is the Winter Storm Severity Index. So this is fairly new. It's only been around for 2, maybe 3 years. So we'll go ahead and go to that website. What this index does is it compares the latest winter storm or winter weather event that we're forecasting and looks back at what happened in the past with a similar event. What were the impacts? And then it forecasts, well, based on those similar events, here's what should happen impact-wise with the upcoming system. So for the one we're forecasting that's going to happen tonight and tomorrow, for our neck of the woods, we're looking at limited impacts, and that means rarely a direct threat to life or property, mostly an inconvenience. So that's the overall impact. If we want to see, well, what's the impact for snow amounts, for instance, just click on the link up here, and it'll give you the impact for snow amounts. And like the other maps I've shown you, you can zoom in to see more detail as far as where those impacts might be. So you can also see what the impacts will be for ice accumulation or even blowing snow. So just to repeat, this website is looking more at what the impacts were for prior storms that were very similar, and then forecast those for the upcoming winter event. And then if you're looking for what do these various impacts mean, below each one is a brief description here in the key. I'll pause for just a few moments to see if we have any questions for this section. Well, it looks like I'm doing a great job answering your questions. Nothing so far, so we'll keep moving along. So the next topic we'll look at is climate information. Where do you go to find that? Well, that is a wonderful question. So we're going to start off by looking at the Climate Prediction Center website. So if you were to type in CPC or Climate Prediction Center, the link to this should be at the top of your search results. So you can see we have quite a few options right on the home page, but for simplicity's sake, I want to direct your attention to the left-hand side. You can see that we have an Outlooks section here. And under that, there is a link for products. So for simplicity, we're going to go right to the products menu here. So this is the entire suite of the products that the National Weather Service offers. But we're interested in just climate information for this exercise. So the 6 to 10 day, 8 to 14 day monthly, and seasonal outlooks. These are all products that the Climate Prediction Center offers. So we're going to click on seasonal because we want to see what the spring outlook is. So for spring, we want to see what March, April, and May have. So to do that, we're going to go to this link right here, March, April, and May. So here is our latest outlook for temperature for March through May. We're going to go ahead and click on it to make it a little bit bigger. So we're looking at above normal temperatures, unfortunately, for the March through May time frame. So they're leaning 33 to 40% confidence for above normal temperatures. So let's go ahead and see what we have for precipitation. So precipitation outlook is unfortunately below normal, is the trend. Looking for a similar confidence of 33 to 40%. Now you notice on both of these outlooks, we have 3 descriptors, below, above, and equal chances. Well, above and below, those are fairly self-explanatory. Above and below normal. Well, what does equal chances mean? That's a great question. What equal chances means is at this point when they're making the forecast, they didn't have the confidence to determine whether a particular area of the country was going to be more favored to be below or above or even normal for precipitation, for instance. So when the confidence really isn't there to make a determination of which way to go with the outlook as far as above or below, they put in equal chances because from their standpoint, when they issue this outlook, the precipitation outlook by the time they get there could go either way. It could be above normal, below normal, or normal. So that's what equal chances means. All right, I'm going to pause once again to see if we have any questions about the climate information. All right, looks like we don't have any. I'm going to go back briefly just to show you again that product suite. So if you're looking for seasonal products, this is the website to get to it. Just for products in general, this is where you want to be. You can find seasonal, monthly, 8 to 14 day, even 6 to 10 day outlooks on this link. So with that, we'll go ahead and move on to drought information. So here's the website for the U.S. Drought Monitor. When you get there, this will be the first thing you see. So probably wondering, well, how do I find out what the latest drought outlook is for a particular county? That's a great question. Glad you asked. So to do that, just click anywhere on the map where you want to zoom in a little bit more. So let's say we want to look at northwest Kansas again. So we click on Kansas to get a more detailed view. So here's where you go to see a county-based drought assessment. So this is the latest outlook. And unfortunately, if you were to compare this with the last month or so, I believe we've gotten just a little bit worse, unfortunately. Speaking of which, if you do want to do a comparison, there's two different ways to do that. You can do a compare 2 weeks. And what this does is it allows you to compare a particular week against another week. The one I think is really easy to use is the comparison slider. So you can adjust the zooming as far as what region you want to be looking at. So we'll stay with the high plains for right now. And let's say we want to compare the current outlook to, mid-August. So the way this works is this slider, what's on the left is mid-August outlook, what's on the right is the current outlook for mid-January. And you can see as I slide it how the outlook changes. I'll slide it again. So on the left is August, on the right of the slider is January. So you can see for our neck of the woods that the severe drought, the D2, is actually expanded quite a bit since August, unfortunately. So I have heard there is some people have seen that there seems to be a lag with how quickly the drought monitor responds to maybe above normal rainfall for an extended time, or that seems to nudge toward the drier side of the outlooks quicker than what you would expect. Unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for that question. I did contact someone at the U.S. Drought Center, and in short, they said to tell you how we come up with these outlooks would take a 50-slide presentation. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through that tonight, obviously. But what I can tell you is we have people at national centers go on a 2-week rotation to come up with these outlooks. And they look through a whole host of different data sources. I believe as much as dozens, 2, maybe 3 dozen different data sources to come up with the outlooks that we see. They also incorporate local expert input into their outlooks. So there is a lot of effort that goes into these, but unfortunately I can't really provide an answer as far as why they seem to lag or seem to trend toward the drier side of the outlooks more than the wetter side. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of understanding of how these outlooks are put together. Before we conclude to our wrap-up section, are there any questions about drought information? All right, I'm not seeing anything, so we'll go ahead and go to our wrap-up slide. So real quickly, we'll go through some of these websites again. So to find observations in a map view, There are a couple different websites. One of them we looked at was the Weather and Hazards Viewer, where you can plot all sorts of different information on it. In fact, I noticed you can see what different observations are around the world with this website. Another one, if this might have a little bit too many bells and whistles for you, is MesoWest. So this one does the same thing, just doesn't have quite all the different options that you have with the Weather and Hazards Viewer. We talked about where to go to find hourly weather information, and that you can look at this in either tabular or in a more of an hourly fashion here with the different hourly trends. We also showed you where to go to find precipitation analysis with the Weather and Hazard Viewer again, or with the one from our website, which is great to look at what kind of precipitation fell in general on a daily basis all the way back to 2005. We looked at winter weather information, the Winter Storm Severity Index, and where to go to find probabilistic snowfall forecasts. So I highly recommend this to bookmark it through our winter season. We also looked at where to go to find climate information, the different outlooks for monthly, seasonal, or even in a weekly format. And then lastly, we looked at where to go to find drought information. So with that, I'll pause once again for any last minute questions before we conclude tonight. So we're not seeing any questions. Well, I just want to thank you for sharing part of the evening with myself and Kalita. As I have mentioned here, I will post the websites that I showed you in the image summary at the top of the video that we are posting to Facebook. So thank you everyone for your time tonight, and have a great evening.